Welcome to Trina Talk. This is the podcast where guests share their stories of pursuing their passions, living a fulfilled life, and empowering others. Each week, I talk with inspiring leaders, business owners, and people with amazing stories from around the world in unscripted conversations as they share their successes and failures. This podcast is all about empowering you to keep striving in your personal and professional life. I am your host, Trina L. Martin. Hey, welcome to another episode. If you're listening, go ahead and go out and subscribe so that you won't miss any future episodes. Also, if you like the show, give us a 5-star review. That way we can move up in the rankings and other people can find the show and be impacted and inspired just like you. Are you a woman of color in tech who feels stuck because you don't see people who look like you lack support from someone who truly understands your journey, and you want to overcome obstacles that you're facing in the tech industry? If you want to elevate your pay, become a leader at your company, be noticed by colleagues and executives to advance in your career, then Tech Trifecta is for you. It's my private coaching program and is now open. I'm only accepting a limited number of people to the program, so apply today at tlmintl.link/tech trifecta. Hey, welcome to episode 192. The topic of this week's episode is Beacons of Leadership. My guest this week is Chris Voss. Chris is a Forbes Top 50 recognized CEO and host of the Chris Voss Show. He is an author, consultant, speaker, YouTuber, and coach. Hi, Chris. Welcome to Trina Talk.
Thanks for having me. It's wonderful to be here.
Hey, it's great that you're taking time out of your busy day and at this time of the year to sit here and be with me. So I'm very happy to have you. How I always like to start off the conversations is I ask all my guests to tell the listeners who you are and what made you the Chris that you are today.
My mom gave birth to me. That's how the whole thing started. My dad and her, never mind. Anyway, we all know how that works. At least I hope some of us do. Yeah. So how did I get to be here today? I don't know. It's a crazy road. But basically I started, I kind of was an accidental entrepreneur when I turned 18, got fired from McDonald's for having long hair, because I was a satanic, evil rocker up in Utah. And I tell the story in my book. And, someone was really religious. They didn't like my hard rock, Van Halen, satanic rock and roll music shirts. They fired me. And I went and started my first company, and after that, just been doing companies and trying to stay relevant and make a couple bucks here and there. All these years. So yeah.
So you've been an entrepreneur since 18.
18. Yeah. I tell the story in my book. The guy really took a shine to me. I was flipping burgers at McDonald's, just out of high school, trying to, eventually go to college, and I had this super long hair, and I had my rock and roll T-shirts from all the concerts I was going to, Iron Maiden, Van Halen, whatever. And he really felt like that was the music of the devil. Of course, we all know Van Halen is clearly the music of the devil. I mean, pretty woman walking down the street. It's clearly a satanic song.
Van Halen, what?
Yeah, Eddie Van Halen. Clearly, dancing in the streets. I mean, everyone knows that's an occult song, clearly. And so anyway, but they were high religious, and he decided to take a shine to me. He's like, you've got to cut your hair. And you're 18 years old. Your hair is kind of your identity. Your look's kind of your identity. I mean, you're still developing who you are. And so I was like, well, this is some BS. And then I looked at the women who were on the crew in McDonald's, and they had long hair. I'm like, well, how come they can have long hair? I can't. Like, this is discrimination, darn it. And So I talked to the gals in the place, and they go, "We have these hairnets, Chris, that we wear. You go buy one for a couple bucks, and it's a hairnet that pulls all the hair up into your hat." I was like, "I'm going to do that." So I got this hairnet, and I started putting it up in a bun, and he was so proud of himself. He was like, "I've dominated this dude and got him to submit to my, maybe he'll join our religion or cult or whatever." And because we're in Utah. So that went on for about a month, and I was like, haha, I've maintained the upper hand. Well, one day he caught me taking my hair in a bun or something, and he was so livid and so livid. And so he fired me. And then I went and started my own business, just kind of accidentally. And within 3 months, I was making more than him. And I went back and shook his hand and thanked him for changing my life, which he really did. And it was the ultimate revenge.
I love that story because I think us as entrepreneurs, that's how we end up becoming entrepreneurs because we get, to that point where we get somebody that we're like, why are we working for this person? and, like we could do our own thing. So tell me about, the businesses that you've started and how that's gone for you.
Well, I sat down and wrote the book, Beacons Leadership. And what I wanted to do was share with a lot of people that went through or might be wanting to start their own business or go through similar experiences that I was going through, and kind of give them a toolbox of what I used to become successful and how I became successful through trial and error, and see if I can save somebody the time and heartache that I went through. Um, but also to let people know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. You can battle through it. And so I started that company, and then after that I started a couple little other ones. I was trying to get into the white collar business instead of the blue collar business. Blue collar is really hard, lots of labor. And so I'm like, I want to be in the white collar business. And eventually started a business with my business partner after a few different launches of different things. And that just rocket shipped. And we just, hit gold. It wasn't without trial and tribulation. I tell those in the book. But then I started our second company, a mortgage company. The first company was a career company that really hit. The second company was a mortgage company. We started within about a year and a half of the first company. And then we started adding companies after that. We added a 1-800 dating line. I tell the story about where that went in the book. We got into a lot of different things. It ended up for about 15 years, we had three core companies. One was a modeling acting agency up in Utah. At the time, there was a lot of movies and stuff going on. Mm. And then we had the mortgage company and the courier company, and we were always starting stuff. I think there was over 27 different corporations that started, and sometimes you start projects, you see where they go. And then I hit the big crash in 2008 where we lost literally everything. And I had to reinvent myself, start over, and we launched the podcast, the Chris Voss Show, and started doing social media marketing and consulting, and then just recently over COVID, I finally sat down and wrote the darn book of some of the adventures.
And we're going to get to your book, and like you said, you're a podcaster as well. And what kind of things do you talk about on your show? Are you talking about some of those principles as far as becoming an entrepreneur and some of those patches that you hit?
A little bit. I think for the first few years of the podcast, I was sometimes doing solo and talking about my experiences or lessons I learned. I think early on we were doing that. Over the last 2.5 years now, it's been me interviewing authors. So most of the authors that come on our show are people from Penguin Random House, Simon Schuster, all the top book places. And so we have all the hottest authors that have the fresh books right off the shelves, and they come tell us about them. A lot of nonfiction, although we have novelists on and stuff. And it's really fun because I get a front row seat to somebody who spent, 10,000, 20,000 hours researching some brilliant piece of history or some sort of research on like maybe COVID or, something, whatever they've studied. human nature, human behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And I get like front row seat to them, and I get to ask them all these great questions.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them are pretty media savvy. You'll see them on TV. We've had a lot of journalists on from the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, CNN. We've had anchors on from the news channels. And so it's really fun because these guys come on, they're really media savvy, and I have to have a really high game for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the way we play. And I love it because I learn so much.
Right, right. And that's kind of how I feel with this podcast, with having great guests like yourself on. It's really, yeah, you're getting a front row seat to this person, and you're like, wow, I'm actually talking to this person and learning about them and their journey. And that's what I want to talk to you about. And I know you said you put a lot of this in your book. So after all your years of being an entrepreneur, COVID hit, and you said, you know what, I'm going to write this book. Now, was that always on your goal list to write a book? Or, because I mean, I wrote a book and I'm thinking, I don't think that was ever on my goal list. But was that on your goal list?
Well, good for you. You actually wanted to do it and did it. I tried to write my first book in 2011 or what? 2011? 2001? Oh man, the time is really getting out of hand with me. 2011, and the iPad had just came out. So if that timing is right, and it was destroying the book market. And I just become really successful in social media as a social media marketer and guru. And I was consulting people on how to use Twitter and that when all that stuff first came out. And I just blanked. Oh, I'm getting old. I'm probably having a stroke. Call 911 if I
no.
But so I'm like, okay, I got to write a book. All my friends are writing books, and I wrote up like a proposal, sent it into Wiley and a few other places, and got denied. And they're like, we're not taking new book authors right now because the whole world's melting down in the book land. I still got the letter too, which is funny. So for the next 10 years, I guess 2011 to 2021, right? I've been kicking myself. You got to write this book. You write this book. I was supposed to write it in 2014 and got into some video gaming a little too much. And for years, 10 years, it's been chasing me going, write the book, stupid. And I had a lot of different ideas for the book, and in 2021, it just all came together, and it was the right moment, the right time, and I had nothing better to do. So,
okay, so beacons of leadership. Tell us, because I am a leadership person, because I spent 30 years in the military. I was a naval officer. So leadership is kind of my jam, because I've seen poor leadership as well as good leadership. So I'm very passionate about it, especially when I know things are going wrong. So tell us about some of your topics in your book, and who is this book for? Is this for someone who is just out there, aspiring? Is it for the entrepreneur? Is it someone working that business and want to move up the ladder? Tell us about that.
Thank you. That's an excellent question. And, when I was writing my book, my military friends are like, you really hit on 90% of what the military teaches. The military actually has really incredible leadership teaching. I found out about be no do from, I think I don't know if it's largely in the Army segment, but the teaching that they do is they teach a lot of almost everybody to be leaders. I mean, you guys are working on multi-billion-dollar sometimes vehicles. It's extraordinary. And the other thing is the military asks people to pay the ultimate price, or to put their lives on the line for the ultimate price. And to get people to want to do that, you've really got to be a powerful leader. You've got to have a powerful system in place, because, otherwise everyone's just going to run away when the crap hits the fan. So I was really amazed at that, and learned a lot about the military and their leadership stuff. And I'd almost like to write a whole nother book on it. There's a lot of great books that have been written by some military leaders, but and that's probably why there's some of the most extraordinary people come out of the military and go on to be leaders in government or business. But beacons of leadership, the concept around the beacons of leadership to me, a CEO or a leader is like a lighthouse. They beam forth this vision, this communication of what everyone around them or their followers or people they're interacting with should do. But I wrote the book under the context of anyone can be a leader. So we all have the potential to be leaders, or many times we are leaders. We just don't realize it. You know, a parent is a leader, whether you realize it or not.
Yeah.
You know, especially a mom, you're a leader. Now, there's some parents that might fail at that and let the kids start taking over. We've seen those kids in the grocery store, right?
Yes.
I might have been in one of them. And so, no, my mom was always with that. I brought you into this world. I will take you out. And I think she tried a couple times, but we earned it. But we were just awful kids. So I wrote it from the context of anybody can be a leader, whether it's an emergency leader or, you know, you might, I don't know, you see somebody stealing someone's purse on a subway and you suddenly step in, you snap. But anybody can be a leader, even if they're under middle management. You know, I wanted the context to be, you don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to have the title to be a leader. You can lead and you can get other people to follow you, whether you're an influencer, whether you're running a podcast like you do. No matter what it is, and especially if you're a parent, like I don't know how many parents really think of themselves as leaders, or you know, and I'm not a big fan of the boss thing. I'm a boss. To me, a leader is a much more richer thing. But I mean, however you want to define it in your head, you can do that. So I wanted to make the book where anybody who felt like they wanted to be a leader or a better leader, a better influencer of their followers, whether they were their kids, whether they were spouse, whether they were, you know, middle management, that they could lead and be successful, and you get people to follow them and get better relationships from that. So that's a large part of what the book is written about. I sat down and nailed down what I thought, my opinion, were the top 5 principles of leadership, and shared why they were. And then out of them, I built a lot of the principles of stories of my business, stories of my life, how that built me into a leader. And there's some pretty interesting adventures in the book, and it's quite the journey. And so basically that was it. So on the cover of the book, it has I think it's on the thing behind me. It's got a picture of a lighthouse, and you know the other thing is too, the lighthouse, you know, lives through the storms and the battles and the weather that rages around it. And that's what a leader does. He stands up on the pinnacle, or she stands up on the pinnacle, and everyone looks to the leader for guidance and communication and everything else. And so I really like the vision of it. I had a couple people that are like, is that a religious book? You know, because it's got a lighthouse on it. I guess the Seventh-day Adventists are into that or something.
Okay.
But it's you know, it's kind of religion leadership, basically. I don't know. We just don't have a church.
Okay, so I guess I'm part of the church since I like leadership. I'm into leadership. You know, I love what you're saying, because I'm getting excited as you're talking about the book, because so many leadership books out there, and believe me, I've read a lot of them. A lot of them come from the point of, okay, well, you're a manager, or, you know, that type of thing. And you're spot on with the military. And this is what I try to explain to people, because that's kind of one of my topics that I speak on as well, is that, you know, leadership is not a title. And in the military, you're right. They teach us from the day you walk in, you could be the grunt, you know, you're a leader, because like you said, we're working on, you know, systems and equipment that are trillions, billions, trillions of dollars. And then you're talking about, hey, possibility of going to war. You have to be a leader. You know, you have to do these things. So that, and it's very surprising to me that a lot of people that have never been in the military, especially in the workforce, don't value military people and veterans and what they have to offer.
Yeah.
So that's, something I hope that you expounded on in your book. I really love that. And I love the fact that you put it out for anyone. It's not that,
Yeah.
okay, if you're, um, have the corner office, or if you're trying to do this, because as you said, even being a mother, you're a leader.
Mm-hmm.
And leadership is so much more than a title. And it's funny because me being a mother, a single mother, when my kids were little, I would always tell them, always reiterate, I'm like, you're a leader, you're not a follower. You're a leader, you're not a follower. And I didn't know whether they were getting this or not, and understanding what I meant by this, until one day I go to school and this mom like runs up to me and she's like pulling me, approaching me. And I'm like, yes. And she was like, are you his mom? And I'm like, yes. And she was like, oh my God, I just want to say, thank you. He's such a great, little boy. And I'm like, okay, what did he do? She's like, well, her son, who was kind of on the chubby side, people, the other kids were bullying him. My
Mm-hmm.
son stepped in and basically told them to stop bullying this
Wow.
this boy.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, I almost got tears in my eyes because I was like, oh my God, I was like, that was great. So I told him, I'm like, I'm so proud of you. That's what I mean by being a leader, not a follower, And he was like, well, yeah, it just wasn't right, Mom. I didn't like that. So it wasn't right. And that's what being a leader is about.
Definitely. I mean, standing forth, taking a position, and people look. Most people are followers.
Yes.
There's very few leaders in this world, and so there's a lot of power in mastering leadership and being a leader. You mentioned that people sometimes well, you're just a manager. Well, the people who get promoted through management are the people that show leadership qualities and skills, and those are the people that ascend to the top and eventually would become like a CEO or whatever. Or, when I used to work for other people and like you, I work for people that I'm like, this person's a moron. How did they get this job? And why do I have to put up with this? But I always call it leadership practice or CEO practice. And I'm like, I'm going to just do, even though this person is just driving me mad and they're the worst people in the world and I want to choke them half the time. Some people's marriages are that way. And I think all marriages are that way. I'm just kidding. But, I would be like, I'm going to just do the best job I can. I'm going to kick butt. I'm going to be a leader. I'm going to stand out, because when I leave and I go start my own company, this is my practice.
Right.
This is my get stuff down, get it right. And so I tell some of the stories in the book about how some of the times when I worked for other people, there were things that I was learning that really made it so that I could become a leader. But yeah, anybody can be a leader. The other thing I talk about in the book and part of the beacons is whether you think you're a leader or not, you're being watched by your followers or people that think you are a leader and that you're following. And they're watching every action you do. Mothers are that way, fathers. And there's some CEOs that I've met that they don't really realize that, they'll put out some PR like, oh, we're a company that has great morals and integrity and we do everything. And then meanwhile, I'm going to go over here and steal some stocks or something,
Right.
They don't realize that people put those two together.
Right.
My parents used to always tell me, and they were good people, but they used to say, don't lie. Mom's always, don't lie. And then you catch mom in a couple white lies. And you're like, wait, something's wrong here. What's going on? And you find out they lied to you about Santa and the Easter Bunny. And then really mom's exposed. You're like, mom's a pathological liar.
Okay. Santa and the Easter Bunny. I think we get a pass for that one.
I love to do that joke. So yeah, I mean, yeah, because everyone does that, right? And for those of you listening, we're just joking around. There really is an Easter Bunny, kids. So anyway, so I talk about how as a leader, or whether or not you really, if you're in some sort of position where people are looking up to you, you need to realize that those eyes are on you, and that you need to behave in a manner of leadership, because whether you realize or not, you're having a huge amount of influence. I mean, most children grow up to be like their parents because that's who they spend the most time watching, seeing, doing. If they have broken relationships, they see, the stress of those things, or the fighting and stuff, they take that into their things. And so you have to realize that, you're being watched, and that has an influence on, whether it's your leadership style. I've seen leaders that are CEOs of their companies, whether they're large or small, and the way they behave sets the tone and the kind of morals for an environment for their company. If they're toxic, their company's toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Their employees are toxic. The whole thing is awful. If it's a high school environment where the most popular employee who kisses the boss's butt the most and
Mm-hmm.
brown noses him the most, if you will, he gets the better promotions even though he doesn't work hard, and the person who's
Right.
working hard is in the back going, "Are you serious? Like, really?" It's
Mm-hmm.
like high school here. But that who you are sets the tone, and so you really want to make sure that you have an understanding of what sort of tone you're setting, what sort of environment you're setting in your business, or in your family and everything else. If you're a spouse, whether sometimes there's a stronger person on one side or the other. Whoever the leader is, that person, there's some expectations that come with it too, where you're expected to act in certain accordance way, preferably, trust, integrity, a lot of these different things, passion we talk about in the book. So, yeah.
I really love that because you are taking the viewpoint of the person who has actually gone through all of this. You're not on that mountaintop speaking down saying, "Oh, this is, the great leadership, book and this is what you should do and here's, you know, the formula and all of this." So I really like that, and I'm very interested. So in your journey as you're going through being a leader yourself and working for other people, just building and going through your life, and if you write on this in the book, like you said, a lot of leaders don't realize they're being watched. But then do you talk at all about the morale? So, we talked about the integrity part and everything, but there are leaders out there who it appears that their main mission is to make their employees' lives miserable. And they don't realize when, it's like, "Oh, I can't retain people," or, I get bad employees. No, you don't get bad employees. You get good people that you turn bad and then they decide they want to leave.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you talk about that or anything?
I touched on, I had, like, there was two things we were doing right in the book. I'm like, do I make the encyclopedia of leadership like a Peter Drucker book?
Mm,
And I didn't have the energy to do that. Or, I mean, something like that takes a lot of research and
yeah,
knowledge.
yeah,
And I'm like, I'm not that smart either. So there's that. But what I did is I sat down and I highlighted the top 5 things that are most important to me, that I think a leader needs to have. And then I wrote the whole chapters on them that kind of broke those down. And yeah, morals and integrity, trust, communication, character. I think that would probably fall under character.
yeah.
And so we wrote some stuff about character and how important that is. But there's a lot of different. I mean, you could write whole books about
Right,
character and everything
right.
else. But you're right. There's a lot of stuff that goes into it. For me, when I defined in the hierarchy, um, was the number one thing to be a leader. And to me, a leader is someone who can fire up people and get people to go the extra mile.
Right.
The Steve Jobs of the world, the Elon Musk of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Jobs had this thing where he could get people to suspend reality. And he'd be like, "We're going to build the iPhone. We're going to cram a fax
Mm-hmm.
machine in it and a phone in it, and just all the stuff they put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to do it." And people are like, "How?" One of my friends, Andy Grignon, was on the team, and they're just like, "We got to put like all this crap in this phone and make the touchscreen work," because touchscreens weren't like
Right.
huge back then. And we got to get it to work. It wasn't even working when he announced it correctly. It was
Mm-hmm.
barely working. So the top 5 things for me is passion was number one. To be a leader, to be a really true leader, to inspire people to want to go do stuff, you've got to have passion, and you've got to be able to infect people with that passion. Hey, let's go someplace. If I say to you, you want to go over there? That sounds like, I'm thinking we should go over there. Yeah. You're like, I don't know, man. But if I go, "Hey man, I have the greatest thing is over there in the world, and we're going to go over there and we're going to take part in it, and we're just going to revel in it, and it's going to be freaking awesome. You want to go there. You're like, I don't know what the hell this is, but this guy has a lot of passion.
Right.
And that's sort of an infectious nature. Sometimes if you're a loving mom who teaches their children or talks to their children or really helps them, inspire their thoughts and their passion, and those are the sort of people that people are drawn to. So I kind of wrote the book under the analogy of what will fire up people as a leader that you need to have to get them to go, I will follow this person anywhere. Right. I don't care where it is. Like Steve Jobs, he could get people to, you want a mountain move, Steve? We'll dig that mountain up and we'll move it over there for you. And he had that. So to me, passion is the number one principle. Vision and innovation. Having a vision and innovation is part of the principle of passion, because people want something that's better for their lives or better for whatever it is. Politics sells lots, but there's a lot of it's BS. But great leaders will say, hey, I think we can build something better. Elon Musk, I think we can build a better car, and I think we can save the planet, and I think we can save lives, and we get self-driving cars. Everyone's like, you're crazy. That's going to be expensive. He's like, no, there's a way to do it. I think we can have recyclable rockets that, go up and come down, and we can save money and just keep doing them. And so people aspire, when you really study followers and leaders, they aspire to people that have these big blue sky vision dreams, and they get caught up in it because it's inspiring. They're passionate about it. And so that will get people to follow you almost anywhere into just about anything. And, the military does that. People are inspired by patriotism, their country, the love of freedom, defending their country. You're asking people to put their lives on the line for what? I don't know, some McDonald's or something. Franchise. What are we defending here? Franchise? No, we're defending liberty, freedom, democracy. This 250, almost 250-year-old experiment, and the lives of the civilians at home, standing between them and the enemy. The whole vision and passion of that. So the third part that I felt was the most important was honesty, integrity, and trust. And then communication and selling. You've got to be able to communicate your vision, your passion, your honesty, your integrity, and trust. And then character comes into that. And character, I think, really builds into a lot of different things. What was kind of interesting is I recently ran a poll of these 5 items on LinkedIn, and all of LinkedIn disagreed with me. And they said honesty, integrity, and trust was the number one feature of a leader. But I disagree with them, because if you don't have the passion, you can be honest, trustworthy. A lot of people are, it's kind of like when you meet a nice guy, and he's like, nice. Hey, I'm really honest. You're like, well, you don't really fire up any emotion or passion in me. Like, good for you. Yeah. That passion is really the thing that drives it. When you just mix that stew, it just makes for a good leader, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, you know what? You're right. You have to have that passion, because I'm thinking over my journey. Yeah, it's the people that had passion, and it's interesting because Colin Powell recently passed away, and I looked up to him as one of the great military leaders. And you're right, you have to have people that can inspire others, because when you're, especially in the military, the ultimate goal is we're defending freedom, and this may cost you your life. You want somebody who you're going to say, you know what, I'll take that hill anytime he tells me. And I don't care what the outcome is going to be. But then when you have people that you're like, I wouldn't follow that guy across the street, that's, that's bad. And you have to have the passion. Honesty is good, but you got to have the passion, and you got to communicate and let people know, okay, this is what I'm thinking. This is why I think this. This is why we're going to do this. And that makes people, because, you don't want to just be doing things blindly. And you're like, it's almost like the kid, right? That's this parent. Well, why? And, even though you're saying like, because I said so, it's still, it's a valid question. And I thought about this as my kids were growing up. I was like, it is a valid question. Why? Because
Yeah.
They're thinking, well, why am I doing this? What's the purpose of this? And I would hope everybody would want to know why they're doing something. But, even, when okay, we're doing this, you may die, but I need you to do this. And that person to actually say, you know what, I'm there for you. That's,
Yeah.
that's leadership.
And a lot of people have to have that why.
Right.
Why am I doing this? And that's where the vision in the innovation comes in, of where you can paint a beautiful picture
Right.
of what you want your followers to go, of what your vision is. And sometimes I've been on that boat where you're the captain in stormy seas, and everyone's looking to you, all the employees are looking to you going, this looks bad, Captain. And you're like, we're going to get through this. Tie me to the mast. We're going that way. And they're like, how do you know to go that way? And you're like, I don't know, but I know because I've done this a million times, and we're going to find land, and we're going to go there, and we're going to make it. And they go, I don't know, he's crazy, but we're going to follow him anyway. But they'll follow your passion, but drawing that vision for people. I talk about this in the book, which is really important. As a CEO, I had to communicate vision, inspire, and motivate everybody. It wasn't just the employees. It just wasn't the senior staff. It was everybody. So vendors, I had to go to vendors and say, hey, man, here's why you should do business with us. Here's why you should give us better pricing. Let's get you captured in what we're building, and you can grow with us and stuff, but I need better pricing right now. And so then they get fired up and they go, this guy is going someplace. So we're going to give him better pricing, attach our horse to him. Vendors, board of directors, investors, all the different people that you have as a CEO, you've got to keep all these people engaged. You've got to keep them all passionate. You've got to communicate that vision so that why, as you mentioned, is filled in for them. And the purpose of that army takes on its own purpose of achieving your vision sometimes long after you're gone. I mean, look at the military. The military is still fighting for the principles of the original thing, a Declaration of Independence that was established 250 years ago, and really the same principles of maybe the Revolutionary War, in freedom, democracy, and those are aspects of things that are bigger than ourselves, right?
Right.
And so that's why people are willing to put their lives on the line to go, this is worth the big picture. This is worth standing between the bad guy and the innocent people who don't have the ability to defend themselves, haven't been trained as such and stuff. And so to me, that's really what leadership comes down to, is painting those big pictures. And, you probably learned as a mom, sometimes if you got them to the wire, gave them a vision of, hey, we're going to go do this, or we're going to go see Santa Claus, and it's going to be fun, or we're going to go to Disneyland, and you paint the picture where they go, oh yeah, we're going someplace,
right.
And that's a real thing that people love and wins over their hearts and minds. I should do a chapter on hearts and minds.
See, for your next book, you can have part 2.
Yeah, hearts and minds.
You have part 2.
Hearts and minds.
Yeah. No, it seems like you cover just an array of topics, which is, like I said, very, very well done. You're not just, speaking from, this is my corner office, I have the mahogany desk, and this is what it means to be great. And I really believe that, and hope the listeners out there who want to be entrepreneurs go out and get this book, because I think there's some things you can learn along the way while you're building your business, building yourself. Even if you're not an entrepreneur, even if you're not trying to be a leader in whatever sector, these principles are still good life principles, because I think just being a human being, networking with other people, collaborating, you always need these principles in your life. And that's what a lot of people I've found in my journey, that they think, okay, you have to have this position to act like this and do these things. And leadership is every day. Every day, you're acting in leadership in some kind of way. You're putting these principles into motion. So I really love the fact that you've done this. And I want to ask you, in your journey, what are give me one thing that really sticks out in your mind and that you learned the most from? It could be positive or negative or whatever.
Oh, so many cathartic moments. There's I learned a lot from the cathartic moments, the dark
Mm-hmm.
times.
Always.
I share a lot of really interesting stories in the book that I don't think I read in a lot of other books. But I share the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Mm-hmm.
There was one time my business partner of 13 years, my best friend of 22 years, walked into my office, handed me the keys to one of our companies he was running, and said, "The company's bankrupt. You're not going to make payroll at the end of the week. I've let the business collapse, and it's going to take down all the companies, so I won't have any debt. And have fun in bankruptcy. Bye. I'm out. We're done."
Wow.
22 years of a friend and 13 years of a business partner that I used to be able to trust beyond a shadow of a doubt. And we had the who's the gal who broke up the Beatles? Um, the I forget
Are
her
you
name.
talking about? We're not gonna say her name on the show because I don't want anybody be like, oh,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we know, we
So
know.
yeah, so the gal who broke up the Beatles with John Lennon's. He basically had that situation where he'd gotten a girlfriend who was like, "You don't need Chris. He's just
Mhm.
some stupid CEO guy." Turns out, I was the guy. But a lot of cathartic moments that I went through. I had 4 days to save our empire of companies and our employees' paychecks. And I talk about what that experience was like. Ultimate betrayal, uh, and I lived through it. And there's a lot. I learned a lot from cathartic moments. And I think that might have been one of the most important cathartic moments because Howard Stern went through a thing, and I talk about this in the book with Jackie Martling, where he had his radio show for a long time, and Jackie Martling left, and he thought that he lost his mojo. He thought he'd left his partner. He'd lost half of his soul, half of who he was, and he's like, I don't even think I'd be funny anymore. And then it turned out that he found that it had always been him. He'd always been the
Mhm.
guy, and Jackie had just been kind of riding along.
Mhm.
And so I had to go through a cathartic moment when my business partner left, where I thought all this time that it was our team. And when he left, I replaced him. He's making a lot of money, 6 figures a month. And I'm like, you're no, hold on, 5 figures a month, excuse me. 6 figures a year, probably. So you're making all this money. And I replaced him with like a $2,500 a month secretary. That's how much little
Mm.
work he was doing.
Wow.
And and then I realized that it had always been me. I always been the CEO. I've always been the proponent of the business, the innovator, the visionary. And he just always been kind of like going, okay, whatever you want to do, Chris.
Mm.
And so that was a real cathartic moment. I think maybe that was the moment I learned the most because it got me through a lot of other cathartic moments, like the Great Recession or like this recent COVID thing. I realized that, hey, you can try and destroy me, you can try and take everything from me, but as long as I got me, you can have everything else. As long as I got me, I'm the boxer still in the arena. I'm gonna fight until I can't move a finger anymore.
Mhm.
So yeah, that was a big lesson in life.
Great lesson. Great lesson. Well, we're gonna go into our questions. That was a good lead in there. So, are you ready?
I'm gonna try.
Okay.
Do I have a timer where
No, I won't time you, but don't give me the hour long story
okay,
behind
all
it.
right.
Okay. Who or what motivates you?
Who or what motivates me? People hate my answer on this one. People really do. Bills.
Okay. Now you got to expound on that. Why?
So I don't really have any sort of special thing that motivates me other than maybe my purpose in life, which is, I don't know, spending money and getting more bills. But bills keep coming like every month and they don't stop. you know I had some salespeople. I think I tell the story in my book. I had a salesperson walk into me one day. He goes, Chris, when I started with your company, I was broke. I was like way behind on my child support. I was living on my friend's couch. My car was repossessed. I had nothing. Now I'm working for you. I'm making like 10 grand a month. I've got all the child support caught up. I got a new computer. I got a house. I got all the car. I got all this stuff now. You've really helped me put my life together. He goes, I can't get motivated to pick up the phone. And I'm like, what? He goes, yeah, I just can't. He goes, everything is fine now. So I don't have any motivation to do sales. And I'm like, dude, the child support bill is gonna come next month and the month thereafter and the month thereafter and the month thereafter. The car bill, the house bill, it never stops coming. So, there's anybody who sits around and goes, well, I made all my money this month and my belly's full and the bills are paid. I can just chill. No, man, there's a whole new set of them coming next month, you know?
That
And
is true.
so people hate that about me. They're like, that's the worst answer ever. But I just have to be honest.
Actually, now that you've actually explained it, no, it actually is a good answer. It makes very good sense. What demotivates you, Bills?
Bill, yeah, that would be funny. What demotivates me? Ah, man. Um, people that people that have a huge Dunning Kruger sort of mentality. People that are not intellectually curious, that are incredibly dumb. I don't know if that's a demotivator, but when I get around those people, I just want to jump off a cliff.
Yeah, I know.
They start sucking IQ points off of you.
Yeah. When was a time that something was said or done to hurt you, but it worked for your good?
One of them would have been when my business partner left. There's been a lot of times, a lot of people in my life I found that I thought were loyalty to me. In the book, I tell a story about how when our courier company, the first company, was applied to, we had to submit a proposal to a state overbody government, and we sent in that proposal, and they wrote one of the nastiest letters they'd ever written to anybody, and I keep it framed, and it was ugly. It was like, this is the worst application we've ever seen. And so I tell a story in the book about how we renegotiated that denial, and we used the same model to go dominate the market in our local market and bankrupt two of the biggest competitors. And so here we got told by the authority that, this is the dumbest thing we've ever seen. And here we dominate with it. So
Great story. What is your fear?
what is my fear? Fear changes a lot. I've lived a pretty good life, so I don't have a fear of dying. My fear is, God, do I have a fear? I don't know. My fear is health now, I think, at this point, because I'm 54. And so my fear is that I can have a quality of life and quality of health. I sometimes I worry that something might happen to me, like a stroke or heart attack, and then maybe I won't be as active or agile. I'm going to the gym right now, trying to get in shape and getting prepared. You kind of at the end of your life, you start looking at the quality of life.
Oh yeah.
So I think that would be one of my fears. That or going to prison for something. I don't ever want to go to prison for anything. That's
that
another
honesty
goal.
and integrity.
Yeah, that's my goal in life. Don't do anything that gets you in prison.
Is there a time when you wish you had done something that you didn't?
Yeah, there's a whole life of those. When I meet people that say, if I could go back and change anything, I wouldn't change a darn thing. I'm like, are you insane? Like, where were you through your life? There's a million things I'd change.
Yes.
I'd go back and probably be an attorney. I'd be really an evil attorney if I'd been an attorney. But I'd be one of those really good. I'd be really good at it, but I'd be really an evil one.
That's
probably
why you're
like
not
Roy.
attorney.
Yeah, I'd probably be like Roy Cohn. There's so many different places that turns. If you look at life, it's like a giant forest, and you go through it, and there's cuts in the path where there's a fork, and you can go right or you can go left, or sometimes there's more than one split. But you have to make decisions, and those decisions are permanent. You can't go back. And you take that road, and then you go down through some other splits, and eventually you find that your life's in a different place. But there's a million places where, sometimes if you go back and you're like, sometimes when you hurt people too, you say something that hurt them or you did something that hurt them, you wish you could go back and fix that. And sometimes I think we all do bad things sometimes, many times unintended, or maybe from trauma we're carrying in our life. I would probably go back and try and circumvent some of my trauma. I think one thing I did talk about, that if I could go back and change, I would tell the 16-year-old self to go get some psychology, go see a psychiatrist. I had really bad ADHD. So.
Okay. Is there a time that you wish you had not done something?
Yeah, it's probably a lot of those too. That not going in to get psychiatry. Sometimes telling somebody something that maybe I hurt them and didn't apologize to them, and the repercussions of that. And I think I remember one time I had a girlfriend, and I had asked her to move out. We were just having all sorts of problems, and I'd asked her to move out. And I remember thinking about halfway through the week, I'm like, let's have a conversation with her to try and one last time. And I was like, I'll put it off till the end of the week and let me think about it some more. And I'd forgotten about it on the last day. I'd totally forgotten about it. And I came home and the house was empty. She'd moved out, and I was like, oh crap, I meant to have a conversation with her about it. And I was like, well, there went that. It turns out it was for the better, but it was a good example of
Wow. What is your definition of success?
There's who wrote the definition of success that I like the most? To leave the world a better place, to make women and children smile, or I forget who it is that wrote it. But basically leave the world a better place, to brighten the world for the place you've been there. I'm trying to think of the gentleman who wrote the text. It's a famous quote, but basically make the world a better place. And I don't have children. I don't have a wife. So to me, the world is my children. And so I try and make the world a better place, influence it to hopefully be better. I'm not sure I'm the arbiter on what's right and wrong and what's better, but I try to be. And so to me, that's the big picture thing. We all have to realize that we're here for a very limited time, and it's a blip on the screen. And if you can touch one person's life or a few people's lives, and that makes a difference in their lives, then hopefully you've lived a better life.
Yeah. How do you recharge?
Video games, sometimes sleep. When you get to be 54, there's a lot of naps. Sometimes it's just being grateful for stuff. I have a thing where I'm grateful every Sunday, and I think about things that I'm grateful for. When I see my kids, my dog kids, I get pretty grateful and appreciate them. I look in their eyes and realize, how much important they are to me and how important I am to them. Evidently, I don't know. At least that's what they tell me. I'm a big treat giver, so they're just probably after treats. But having gratitude really helps. That's a real recharge. Sometimes just taking time out for yourself. Sometimes just doing something mindless.
Yeah.
Doing a video game or some sort of self-care.
Yeah.
Where you can tune out. You just have to make sure you don't do it for it doesn't disappear into it for like a month or something.
Yeah, please don't. What are you awesome at?
Man, I like to think I'm awesome being a leader, good, passionate people, a person that inspires people. I have a lot of followers across social media. People like me for some reason. I don't know if I've had some people say that they follow me because they're just waiting to see the car finally hit the wall. And the crazy clown car hit the wall. Other people really like me for some strange reason. I think I inspire people. I think I make people think. I have on my Facebook that I'm the Morpheus. I'm the red pill. And I'll challenge your thinking and I'll test you. And maybe from that, you'll be like, maybe he's got some ideas there. So yeah, I think that's it.
And I think you kind of said this, but what legacy do you want to leave?
Yeah, I like a legacy where people go, yeah, that guy was pretty freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'd like a whole lot of people to show up at my funeral and have a party. I'm not really sure that's going to happen because, I don't know how many Facebook friends or Twitter followers show up at your funeral, but I would like to hope that people thought I was a good person, that I touched their lives, that I moved them. Maybe I improved their lives in some form or matter, or inspired them in some way, or made them think more about the depth of their life, and give them some sort of additional richness. That, or maybe they just thought I was a moron and whatever. I gave them something to judge.
You still had impact on them, huh?
I did. If you hate me, I'm still in your head.
Oh my goodness. Chris, tell the listeners how they can connect with you, get your book, and whatever else you have going on your agenda.
Thank you. They can go to beaconsleadership.com. They can go to the chrisvossshow.com. You'll find the podcast and everything we do over there, and lots of product reviews too. And it's all on Amazon or Barnes and Noble, any place you want to order, wherever fine books are sold, we'd like to say. And order the book, read it, give it to your friends. I just had somebody write me the other day who's an entrepreneur. She's a new entrepreneur, and her friend gave her the book and she read it twice. And she says, I loved it, and it inspired me with what I'm doing. And I'm like, great. That's kind of who I wrote the book for. Is,
Right.
One of the authors was on my show. She's like, write the book. You need to write the book. And I was kind of in the editing process and I was losing my mind. I started typing, like Jack on The Shining. I started typing, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. and my friends were starting to get concerned about me. And I talked to this gal and she goes, there's somebody out there that needs to hear your message. There's somebody out there who's in the darkness and they're at their bottom and they need to hear your words, and only your words are going to save them. And your job is to save them. So you need to write this book and you need to finish it because those people need you. And maybe you'll meet them someday over the course of my history of being inspiring as a leader in social media and stuff. There were two people who wrote me and said they were thinking of committing suicide that day. And something that I wrote just without any really much thought, there was an inspiring quote or something or some sort of inspiring message, turned them around that day. And they wrote me and said, you saved my life today. And I like to think they saved their lives, but we don't realize how much we can touch and influence other people. And sometimes we'll hear about it. Sometimes somebody will come and tell me, and other times we just may inspire people and they go on their merry way, and we just never know. But that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, love that. Chris, thank you for being on the show. It's been a great conversation. Love what you're doing. And everyone out there, get the book, Beacons of Leadership. And I don't think you'll be disappointed. So thank you, Chris. I want to thank my guests for being on the show, and I want to thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show, and don't forget to tune in next week.